Tweedledee. Yeti, yeti, yeti. 1, 2, 3. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is G. You're watching Allastrology. We're going to talk about something deep, something hidden, something below the surface, something that you would literally have to dig for or drill for, right? Something you would have to drill for because it is something that exists below of where you're walking. It is something that is in the dark, that is in the depth, that is in, some call it Hades, because it is a mysterious dark place, a place that most fear to go. So we're going to spend a little bit of time, if you haven't guessed it, we're going to spend some time talking about Pluto. And we're going to pray that the lighting stops acting insane. We're going to do that first. We're going to spend time with Pluto because Pluto is going to stand still shortly, right at the end of this month, at the end of April. Pluto is going to stand still. So anytime any planet stands still, we feel its energy, its radiations, whatever kind of keyword you can think of for that particular planet or luminary or asteroid, whatever that is we're talking about. All of a sudden, those keywords become quite obvious. We see them, we feel them, we become, we begin to really understand, like, oh, this is that, right? So I think having a clear idea about Pluto and understanding the basics of Pluto energy, and then looking at what could Pluto mean in the sign of Aquarius. So understanding some of the Aquarian themes. And for Aquarius energy, sometimes we only hear it talked about in ways where it has to do with inventions, right? Inventions for humanity, inventions that helped the advancement of humanity, right? We hear that all the time. Shocks and surprises, electricity, right? Benjamin Franklin, Nikola Tesla, like you guys have heard me say this a trillion times. But what else is it about, right? What else is it about? And so let's begin with Pluto. When we look at Pluto and we understand its raw definition, and by the way, the word raw, you could even write down across from the word Pluto, you can put raw, okay? Think about things that are hidden, even if they're things within yourself, right? Because Pluto definitely operates on an emotional level. It can be the material world. That's the amazing thing about Pluto energy. It can be the material, the tangible, but it can also be the invisible, the non-tangible. It can even be the spiritual realm. Pluto is powerful, but it's got a power that is not dependent on might. It goes beyond might. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So fear is a big deal with Pluto energy, right? Because it's typically associated, well, let's think. What sign does it rule, right? Scorpio energy. Scorpio. So it's stuff that is buried, that is hidden, that is deep down. And we associate wounds and healings, right? But we have to first have these wounds before we can have healings, right? Right. And many times we kind of like to skip over that part because we don't want to see it. We don't want to feel it. We don't want to go there. It's difficult. And that sometimes can be Pluto energy. It can be having to see that which you don't want to see, having to see something that you purposely pushed away, swept under the rug, put it in the closet, right? Right? when you go to move and you start going through stuff and you're like, "Oh shit, we still have this?" Like, I thought we got rid of this, right? And it could be something as simple as that, because maybe it was something that your spouse had inherited from, like, whoever, and it was something y'all couldn't agree upon, so it kinda got pushed to the side, and then eventually somebody kind of hid it from the other person, and so that's a real simplistic way of looking at Pluto energy, but it's a realistic way that is tangible and material, but it's also emotional because it's something somebody was related by blood. And so they received something because of that blood relation, right? But how many people get things or money left to them and they weren't related by blood? Like, how many times do people leave money, like, to charities? It's got nothing to do at all. It's like they don't know anybody. They're leaving it to charity, right? Or you hear about they left it to their animal. They left it to their animal. Now, I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. What I'm saying is, I don't think they're blood related, right? So there's an emotional bond too, right? With Pluto energy, absolutely an emotional bond. And so, yeah, list down below all the different things, all the different ways, all the different events where a person can become emotionally bonded. And it doesn't even have to be to another person, right? Animals, right? Some would argue and say, well, of course, that's not a human being, right? And so you would be like, but it's my people. These are my little furry, four-legged friends. Like, they're family to me. Right? Absolutely. And so there's that emotional connection. There's that emotional connection. And I have to stop talking because a cat is opening the door and I've got people sleeping. So hold on. Let me go shut the door. This is probably Taffy. She hears me talking and she's like, we're on. Yeah. Let me shut the door, Taff. I'm talking in here. Okay. You can come up, but I have to shut the door. I can't talk and keep people awake. Stay there because I'm not getting back up to open it. Little beast. Yeah, you heard me talking, huh? Yeah, it's okay. You can stay. Because you know what? We're talking about furry friends, and you came walking right in the room. Yeah. We're talking about Pluto. Yeah. We're talking about soul energy. Right. How many of you have a furry friend and you call them your other? Now she's purring like a damn motorboat. Come on, Moose. She's purring like a motorboat. So all this is Pluto. Yeah, because it represents the past, right? I just demonstrated when we were talking about bloodlines and inheriting something. Yeah, like it goes back, it goes deep. And so some of these people with people who have like deep family money that goes way back, powerful families, right? Lots of money. Yeah. They may not even be emotionally connected. They have no emotional bonds. They just have the blood bonds. So there's a lot of this is what makes Pluto so damn powerful. That it is not about just the material and the tangible. It goes beyond that. It can be energetics and it can be soulful. So three ways, right? And there's probably way more than I'm even aware of. Because some say that Pluto is divine. Some say Pluto, right? We talk about Neptune. Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, like it's divine. But Pluto is exalted in the sign of Pisces. It is exalted in the sign of Pisces, a water sign. Makes sense? We whoever assigns Pluto as the ruler of Scorpio. So it operates, it's at home in the sign of Scorpio. It does really well there. So what I'm going to do, if you think you have a little furry friend and it's your soulmate, right? Or your other, or whatever you want to call it. Yes, you hear the talking and you're like, it's time. I would turn the music on, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to read something, and if Taffy will, she's just Like, I'm going to lick. Okay, mama. Okay. I'm going to need that hand back. Yeah, I'm going to need that hand back. So here's some basic understanding of Pluto. It is the planet of transformation, right? We've heard this. Nothing new, right? It says nothing stays the same around this planet. Its task is to clear out the old to make way for the new. This is done volcanically. So you know what a volcano does, right? How do we know what's in a volcano? We don't know shit until the damn thing is erupting. And then we're like, oh, look at that, right? Volcanically. It forces out anything that is submerged, anything that is hidden, anything below. It forces it out to the surface to be dispelled. Wherever Pluto sits in your chart, you experience regeneration. So we have to be willing to let go of some of the old. And this is important. This is super important because remember, we're keeping all this in mind because we're remembering that I'm talking about Pluto in Aquarius. So we're going to have to talk about Aquarius energy too, right? But before we get there, here, come over here. We're going to read a little bit more. For Pluto in Aquarius, the software actually makes a comment about it. It says that Pluto is in its sign. It applies to a generation rather than an individual, right? So we get that part because Pluto takes such a slow movement. And so it says this generation of people of worldwide cooperation. This is a generation of people with their focus on worldwide cooperation. People in this generation have the ability to make scientific breakthroughs for the benefit of humanity and may be forced to change the way science is viewed. I'll read that one more time. Taffy is biting wires. Come here. Come here. You wanted to be in the room. You can be in here. But you got to turn around because that's Danger City over there. So again, this is the generation of worldwide cooperation. Hey. Stay with me here. This is the generation of worldwide cooperation. People in this generation have the ability to make scientific breakthroughs for the benefit of humanity and may be forced to change the way science is viewed. Yes, I know, baby. I know, pretty girl. I know. She is purring up some stuff. All right, so that's Pluto. But now let's go even a bit deeper with Pluto. And how am I going to do that? Because Pluto rules Scorpio from my book by Dane Rudyard. We're going to read 0 degrees of Scorpio. That might give us some indicators, some extra details. Pluto digs deep. Pluto is revealing likely stuff that we don't want to see, stuff that we hide, especially when we apply it to us personally, the human side of us, things that we are fearful of, things that make us fearful. Hey, that's enough. That's enough. I don't have enough arms to keep track of you. Holy crap. So fear, I mentioned fear earlier. I mentioned raw because it can be those wounds. It can be things that are considered undesirable. Events, things, people, because it's like, oh my God, really? You're really doing that? You really said that? Holy crap, that's there. How did that get there? Like, it might be things that you look at and you think, oh, wow, ooh, because it's opposite of Taurus. Scorpio's over here, Taurus is over here. Where's my pen? I mean, you get my drift. I know the pen's already out because she's always trying to eat them. But yeah, opposite of Scorpio is Taurus, and that's Venus. Venus is beauty, desirable, peace. Scorpio's at the opposite end, undesirable. Things that might not be so pretty. It might be considered yucky. So when I say raw and like, woo, think of plumbing and sewage. Yeah, ooh, right? Like, no, thank you. I'll pass on that. So you see where I'm going. It can be the things that we don't want to see or smell or taste, right? And so we think of war and battle and how that can be really frightening, shocking, scary. And what you see, you can't unsee. What you smell, you can't unsmell. I just want to bring this little story into this. My one of my housemates has been watching. I don't know what they've been watching. All I know is I'm in the other room and I'm trying to like edit and stuff. And he ends up falling asleep. So the very same night, I may hear the same program like 2 or 3 times because he falls asleep. And he doesn't watch the whole thing, so he starts all over again from the beginning, and I've got all these things memorized, right? So anyway, whatever program he's watching, there was some sort of a documentary about people who lived through war, soldiers who lived through war, and they were describing, like, what they saw, and they were explaining the scent, the smell. They were talking about how sweet the air was, so sweet, but not like a sweet. It was more like a sweet, heavy smell of blood. They said to this day, and I think these were like, I can't remember what war it was, but these folks were like, this had been way back, right? These guys were like seniors. This was like 50 years, 60 years later, and they're talking about it as if it happened yesterday, like the details. They said, you just can't unsee it, you just can't unsmell it, you just can't unthink it. It's just there. And so it's it's powerful. It impressed everything, all the sensations, Taurus, right? Smells, taste, touch, the visual, the aesthetics, what they could hear, right? That's Taurus. And so Scorpio at the opposite end has the ability to incorporate that. It has the ability to go there and to operate in that way. Therefore, those things, even though they may not be beautiful, it's going to be the things at the opposite end, right? The smells, the taste, the touches, the sights, the sounds that are not beautiful, that are like tragic. Okay. And again, it doesn't always have to be tragic. This is just me giving one example of, well, because that program was on and I heard it like 3, 4 times, I was just like, oh my God, this is so Pluto. And that is just how my crazy brain works. Anytime someone is talking about whatever, my brain immediately is connecting what planet is like responsible for that. You follow? Like that is just how it works. So bear with me. Um, so now that I've got that out of the way, let's talk about Scorpio at the 0 degree mark. Okay. Now, I know for somebody who may have this book, you might be thinking there is no such thing. You're right. You have to go to 30 degrees of Libra. Isn't that interesting? Right. In your chart, it'll say 0 degrees of Scorpio, right? But if you were to look it up in his book, there is no 0 degrees. There's a 30 degrees of the previous sign. And so that's what we're going to read and see what we get from this. Here it is. 3 mounds of knowledge on a philosopher's head. Okay. That's quite wild. 3 mounds of knowledge on a philosopher's head. The keynote, the fulfillment of man's power of understanding at whatever level of existence the person operates at. Okay? The fulfillment of man's power of understanding at whatever level of existence the person operates at. Wow. And then he has a little explanation here. A true philosopher, you know me, 9th house, Sagittarius, Jupiter, right? Philosophy, which is the sign that comes right after Scorpio. Interesting. A true philosopher is a person who was able to understand, this is in quotations, you're going to have to wait, sissy, who is able to understand, not merely know, in quotation marks, the process of life as he comes to experience them directly. He is the man of wisdom, different indeed from the man of science, For while there must be knowledge before understanding, knowledge alone can be both barren and destructive of wisdom. This particular symbol refers, of course, to phrenology. Oh, I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that. phrenology. That didn't occur to me. Phrenology, when a person can put their hands on your skull, and by the way your skull is shaped and the different spots that have the mounds or wherever, they read your skull basically. And that, yeah, I've never done it, never been into it. Anyway, that's all I know about it. So phrenology. This particular symbol refers to, of course, to phrenology, which is usually considered a pseudoscience, but may provide significant indications. Number 3 always indicates a state of completion. The symbol implies a fulfillment of philosophical understanding, which obviously has nothing to do with academic degrees or the writing of successful treatises. I always mess this word up. Treatises on abstract concepts. Treatises on abstract concepts. My God, this Mercury's kicking my ass. I feel like I need to reread that. A true philosopher is a man who is able to understand, not merely to know the process of life as he comes to experience them directly. He is a person of wisdom, different indeed from a person of science. For while there must be knowledge before understanding, knowledge alone can be barren and destructive of wisdom. This peculiar symbol refers, of course, to the phrenology, which is usually considered the pseudoscience, but may provide significant indications. Number 3 always indicates a state of completion. The symbol I just want to stop there for a second. The number 3 implies the state of completion. And now I want to read something. I know I'm weaving multiple things together. I had a very interesting, awesome question from a subscriber. And so I want to share it with you guys. And I would love your feedback. May I ask you a question, G? Maybe it is an interesting subject for a video. I have a doubt, but yet couldn't find an answer that resonates with my inner truth just yet. This doubt, it's living on in my head. Why is it that every religion has a trinity? Like the Catholic religion has the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son, Jesus. Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Buddhism, the Dharmakaya. Forgive my pronunciations, okay. Forgive my pronunciations. The Nirmanakaya, the Dharmakaya. Judaism, Kether, Binah, Binah, and Chakma. And this goes on and on in the religions. Why 3? Mind, spirit, and physical? Past, future, and present? With length and depth? Morning, afternoon, and night. This person then went on to say, as a physicist, I was always interested in a very well-known constant in physics, and it is called the constant of fine structure. It is 1/137. It is just a number. It is present in everything, but nobody knows why. But it looks like it reflects the most powerful number in spiritualism. Or I think she said, the spelling here, spiritism. This is a person who speaks very good English, but it's not their native tongue, but has done an excellent job. But they wrote it as spiritism. So maybe that's, I think I've heard of that in a different, like in some old English speaking and writings. So 1, that is the all it is, the whole. 3, the whole Trinity. And the mystical number 7. The number 7 symbolizes the state of totality. Everything in creation goes through 7 stages of activity. Hugs and blessings, my amiga. Just a really beautiful, beautiful message and an awesome question. The number 3. Yes, there were lots of other things in there. This is from a physicist. So I love the fact that there's somebody taking that knowledge and like applying it to, spiritualism, right? And religions. I think it's fascinating. And so when I was reading this 3 mounds of knowledge on the philosopher's head, I thought, oh my God, I have to tie this in. Like, I may be trying to make connections where there aren't connections, but I'm not trying to. This is just where my guidance has literally taken me, because before I began this video, I read that message and I thought, well, I'm going to see if I can have a little conversation about that, but, address it to make it a video so everybody can kind of take part in it. And then for whatever reason, I heard go to the book and start doing Pluto. And I thought, okay, then I'll do that. I'm thinking I'm going to do a different video tonight, right? Or at least right now. And I had no idea that this is where it was going to lead us, about the number 3. This is amazing to me. So, number 3, he says, always indicates a state of completion. The symbol implies a fulfillment of philosophical understanding, which obviously has nothing to do with academia or the writing of a successful, whatever that word is, I can't say, on abstract concepts. He then has an afterthought, and it says, cultural factors are always involved. Even though true wisdom transcends cultural values, it is rooted in the essential nature of man. What is at stake here is a holistic approach to knowledge based on universals. Period. And the keynote on that was, one more time, the fulfillment of man's power of understanding at whatever level of existence that person operates at. I like this. It's deep. It's like you may be at a level where you understand the whole, or what you think is the whole, what you think is, I know it all, right? But it also honors that you can understand and feel that you understand all, regardless of whether you really understand all. It's like it's on whatever level you operate at. And so there's something quite hopeful about that for me, something quite hopeful. And it also speaks to the divine Pluto degree, that 0 degrees. Very powerful stuff, because if creator, whatever you call creator, created you, created me, created Venus, created Mars, created the earth, created the sun and the moon and the other stars that we look up at the night in the skies, and the oceans and the mountains, then whoever we are, however we are, whether it's in our appearance or our intellect, or whatever age we're at, whatever stage we're at in life, Creator already knew all this. This was all already, it's already written, so to speak. It's already written. And so there's no, you're a failure. There's no, you're this, you're that. There's no, you're not doing enough. It really speaks to the whole. And within that whole, right, I think of the 360 degrees of an astrology chart. 360 degrees in an astrology chart. Each house, or I should say each sign, is 30 degrees. And not to go crazy, because I don't like to go off on, because there's like a lot of different ways, a lot of different Alice rabbit holes to go down into. There's like, it's so easy to do that. But in numerology, the number 30 degrees, is just a 3, folks. You take the 3 and the 0, you add it together, you got a 3. And so There's 12 threes in your chart because there's 12 houses. But even the number 12 itself in numerology is a 3. You add the 1 and the 2 together and you get the 3. I mean, is that crazy? So that number 3 pops up in a lot of different ways. And applying it to this Pluto degree, which I had to read, what did I start off the night reading at? What did I say? Because there's no 0 degrees of Scorpio, we have to find the 0 degrees of Scorpio. The way this author wrote this book, you have to read the 30 degrees of the previous sign. And so for any of you who have a chart, you know that if you were to look up 30 degrees on a chart, you cannot find it. It just goes to 29. And then the 0 goes to the next sign, and that's where it begins typically, correct? So the way they did this was they put it at 30 degrees. 30, 3, 0. 3 and 0 is a 3. Those divine degrees, again, those divine degrees come through. The completion. Amazing, isn't it? So yeah, I'm going to let Taffy out of the room because I'm not done yet. There's more. It's Pluto. There's more. Hold on. Below the video, I'll have all the degrees for those of you who like to pay attention to the degrees in your chart. Again, if you don't know and you want to know, just comment below.